Hi, I'm Garmbreak1, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowd.
Nice to meet you, everyone. Hi.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about Dragon Fighters, the advanced Musha Shugyo RPG?
Yeah. So, Dragon Fighters is a new Kickstarter we're launching after Augusta Universalis, which was launched the um, previous year. So, Dragon Fighters is an evolution of Musha Shugyo. It's not the same game. It's um, a completely renewed system, and it also uses some fighting cards, which are used to make one versus one competitive gameplay. There are several game modes. It's basically something like a fighting game in board game fashion, but the system of Dragon Fighters using the symbols, which are used also in Augusta Universalis and many other games we develop, are used in other games that run on Dragon Fighters, like it was a sort of console. So all these mini games are separate products, and each one will have different rules and different character sheet, and everything will be absolutely focused on different kind of action, different kind of gameplay. So it's the idea is that Dragon Fighter is a sort of board game arcade console, because the feeling that you have when you play this kind of game is that the action, the fighting, and everything you do is very fast, simple, and looking like you were playing on an old arcade machine, you know.
Yeah, back in the good old days of arcades and, being in public places
Oh,
with
yes.
people.
Yeah, that's the idea. Since I don't know where you live, but where I live, there's no arcade machine to see anywhere. Only slot machines and things like that. So it's a little bit of a desert in arcade game. We can only play at home, emulate, etc. But you know, having the feeling of playing something on your table that really feels like an old arcade game when you play with your friends all together against the odds, against the enemies, or one versus one, is very entertaining.
Yeah, I'm in Alberta, Canada, so it's
Hmm.
midnight for me right now. There's one
Well,
arcade within 100 kilometers of me, as far as I'm
wow.
aware. Yeah.
Well, at least you have one. At least you have one. Well, I'm sure in Milan or in Rome there are several of these arcades, but I live in South Italy right now, so here it's completely a desert in this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, so basically, yeah, there's one box and there's a whole bunch of different kind of game modes. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. You can play with the dice for more cinematic gameplay. You can describe what you're doing and how you use the environment around you during the fight when you're fighting in the base game. I mean, also in RPG modes, of course, you use six-sided dice and for resolutions. And in this kind of game, of course, there's a lot of luck. But what you do is focus on the scene, on what you're doing, on the cinematic, you know. So what you want in this kind of mode is feeling the entertainment, the situation, the fictions that you usually see in martial arts movies or in action movies, anime, etc. On the other side, inside the game, there are the fighting cards. And when you play with fighting cards one versus one, you customize your deck. You choose which cards to put inside of it so that your character gets stronger. And when you play, there is no luck at all, because we wanted to create, like in a normal arcade console or video game, etc., several game modes. But it's not only a single game. The fact is that inside of Dragon Fighters, you will find all the tools you need to customize it for your personal game experience. So we already published 4 small games as an example, and of course they are fun, they are good to play, etc. But this is also a sort of toolkit for you to build upon and create your customized game. So that's why there are several game system resolutions and game modes, etc.
Cool. So Musha Shugyo has been around for a long time, right? This is
Yeah.
yeah, your second like big release, I guess.
Of Musha Shugyo, yes, this
Yeah.
is the second big release of Musha Shugyo. Of course, it's like Musha Shugyo 2.0, because what we did here is collect all the experiments, advices, and feedback from the community, from people. Also, in these years, we as designers, I'm Daniele Fusetto, Massimo Morganti, Alessandro Costella, all the people in the team. Of course, we learned new stuff, we evolved, and just leaving Musha Shugyo as it was, we didn't feel good with that. We had to change it, to upgrade it, because we already played it in an upgraded way. So what we felt that it was the right time to collect everything, upgrade it, and explain that Musha Shugyo is there to kick, and it's completely renewed. renewed. So the standard gameplay, 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, etc., with 1 dice, is very similar to the old Musha Shugyo, but all the rules inside of the core of the system are refined, changed, symbols are completely rebalanced. And also, the special point system is completely different. We also introduced the Dragon Key, which is a new kind of key. You feel the key of the warrior, the soul of the warrior, not the energy inside there. And there is a tree system that you can upgrade your dragon abilities one after the other in a different way, and you choose which dragon chart to choose, so that your character can evolve in a different way in role-playing game mode. If you play in a normal battle, you choose 1 dragon chart, all your dragon abilities are unlocked, and you can use them to fight. So when you stock up special points, you can choose to spend them to activate 1 dragon ability, not only to use them for chains or super moves, etc. It's really an upgraded version of Musha Shugyo. It wasn't simple to just release an expansion, because the entire system, we renewed, completed the core and everything around it. That's why we also decided to change graphics and illustrations and everything to communicate this change, to tell people, hey, it's not the same game, it's something new.
Cool. And the art is wonderful.
So that's about it. Tell me, any other question, any other curiosity?
Yeah, how did you come around to creating Musha Shugyo? Like what was the inspiration for this project?
Well, Musha Shugyo was a game I started developing during university, because I had to spend some time when I was between a lesson and another, and I've always liked a lot fighting games. I'm a huge fan of King of Fighters, yeah, and also tabletop fighting games. Like, one of my favorite card game is Yomi, which is a sort of card game based on Street Fighter, but it's with a custom fantasy setting. But I needed something that I could play alone with a pencil and a piece of paper, and that's all. So Musha Shugyo was born from that, because there is a solo play mode, single player mode, where you write the diary of the warrior, and you also draw your fights with stickmans and roll the dice and see how the fight develops. And that was very important, because normally pencils have 6 sides if they are not round. So if you write a number on each side of the pencil, you can make it fall on the table make it roll, and see what number comes out.
That's quite clever. I like that.
That's how Musha Shugyo was born. I needed something that was very, very easy to play alone with a single pencil and piece of paper. The system was even easier than how it was when I developed it, but of course it wasn't deep enough. So I built upon that, and I created Dark Destiny, which was and is a complete role-playing system only focused on role-play, interpretation, and action. And this is the system that's inside Augusta Universalis, for example. But Musha Shugyo is a sort of very, very, very simplified version of Dark Destiny, which focuses on action only. Of course, there is in Dragon Fighters, there are abilities, background, special skills, and a lot of other stuff that you normally find in an RPG. But they're not inside the standard bookmark character sheet, which is a little character sheet that you can also use in your Diary of the Warrior when you're writing your story. This is a separate, the role-playing game chart is a separate one. You take your character sheet, put it on the role-playing sheet, and substantially you expand your character's abilities. No, so this way you can role-play in a similar way compared to those normal role plays you are used to, like Augusta Universalis or D&D or any other game. You have abilities, etc. But what you do with abilities is that you get a bonus die when you describe how you use those abilities. So it's not mechanically heavy. And Musha Shugyo is that. It's something that keeps keeps it very simple and focuses on gameplay only, with no complex mechanics, etc. What you do when you play Musha Shugyo is that you never get distracted by the system. What you're doing has corresponds completely to what happens in the fiction, so it's very straightforward. That's what I needed for Musha Shugyo. And since I love fighting games, but what I love most in fighting games is the fiction, the scenes that happen, the combos, the visuals. So the feeling when you're playing that you are doing those moves for real, that you are the one who's doing those super moves, special moves. That's exactly what I wanted to put inside of Musha Shugyo, while other games like Yomi, etc., only focuses on technical aspects like reading the moves of the other fighter. This part is also integrated in the new Dragon Fighters thanks to the fighting cards. But what I love most about the Musha Shugyo and the feeling, what I needed to create when I developed it, was the possibility for a player to feel that he was really performing those moves, that he was really the fighter who was living those kind of adventures.
That's super cool. So it's a lot more
Thank you.
focused on the themes of fighting games than the super technical, animation canceling, hyper into hyper move stuff. I don't know
Yeah.
much fighting game jargon. I assume that's a thing.
Well, I usually play a lot in fighting games, also online, etc. So I know that that super technical part is very important for many people in fighting games, like being aware of how many frames a move has, so that you can punish your enemy the moment the special move becomes vulnerable. I know that. So that's why I developed, with the help of the others, the fighting cards. Because what we need, in fact, in the fighting cards, you have numbered cards too. And when you perform a normal attack or a special or a super attack, you get to choose which number to play. Okay, higher numbers make more damage, but are slower. Lower numbers make less damage, of course, but are very quick. So when you play the card, after a second, you reveal which card each player played, And if you both made a normal attack or in general an attack, the faster hits, the slower doesn't. So you also have to be aware of the frames. These numbers are called frames inside of Dragon Fighters. So we know about that. It's another kind of another part of the fighting games experience. So we couldn't do without it. We had to put it inside. The original Musha Shugyo was only cinematic, only fictional, etc. This is much more divided in a fictional part, technical part, and you can join both and make a complete fighting game experience if you want. But one of the main sources of inspiration for me when I developed Musha Shugyo 1.0 was the Street Fighter Assassin's Fist web series. It's a live series with real people involved. I don't know if you know the Assassin's Fist web series, but
I'm not familiar, unfortunately.
Well, well, it was very inspiring. It was a fantastic series. It was all about people training, you and Ken training in their dojo when they were young. Everything about that, from the soundtrack, from the to the graphics and the feeling, was totally astonishing for me. So I opened a closet. I decided to get back to Musha Shugyo, to the system I developed when I was at university, and see if something cool could be created from that. That was the trigger for me to publish the first Musha Shugyo.
That's super cool. So what can you tell me about the expansion modules like Mecha Romancer?
Mm-hmm. All the expansions all the expansion models are like arcade games that run on Musha Shugyo or Dragon Fighters. So, for example, Mecha Romancer is inspired from the Sega Dreamcast game Mecha Romancer. It's basically a collection of super robots. You can find a classical super robot like Mazinga, which is in our case is Romabot Centurion, which is a robot from an Italian comic book. Then you have each a different kind of super robots, like those that transform in something else, those that have three ships that how do you say that, gattai in English?
Combine, yeah.
Combine, yeah. Sorry. I was focused on gattai and
I
I
mean,
couldn't imagine
a,
the Italian word.
a lot of my audience would get Gatai, don't worry.
Gattai. So they combine and create a different robot, a biological robot like like Evangelion. There is another one that transforms in an airplane or in another kind of mechanical different mechanical model of some kind. I don't know, machine in general. So it is a collection of different rules for you to, and robots, of course, pre-generated robots. You can fight it with it straight out of the box, or you can use it as a development toolkit to build your own mecha role-playing game, because it explains you how do you play with Dragon Fighters, all these kind of different robots. Then there is Retromaniacs, Age of Arcadian, which is a collaboration with Retromaniacs, which is a web page, Facebook page, and a Twitter channel, Twitch channel, etc. Pretty famous in Italy, focusing on retro gaming, as the name can suggest. This is an action game with a feeling similar to those cartoons you see on Cartoon Network. So it's fun to play. It's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. It has all that tongue-in-cheek feeling. It is not extremely serious, but it can jump instantly from a situation where you are laughing a lot to a situation where you're sweating and asking yourself, will I do it or will I die today? It's inspired by some cartoons like Glitch. Glitch. I think the Netflix series is called simply Glitch. I don't know if you've seen this. It's amazing. Have a look at it. Absolutely. And then there is this game is about these heroes who were turned in something more powerful, something different by Arcadion, which is a machine that completely they created, but it completely lost control and started contaminating and changing everything around it, transforming everything it touches in a sort of strange version of an old arcade game in reality. It uses a new technology they developed to create sort of augmented reality, but it used it to warp, to change completely reality and make it something different. So they have that power, but kept their control on their minds when all the others are completely lost it and are simply slaves of Arcadian. And so they fight out a lot of adventures in this sort of warped world that looks like somehow like our world, but changed in a sort of arcade fashion, of old video game fashion, you know, like it was straight from Castlevania or something else. Then we have, wait a moment, I don't remember, because we have some games that will be released if we reach a stretch goal. Here we go. Dawn of Oblivion is another one of those that will be released anyway, because there are 4 of those that will be released no matter what happens. And one is Dawn of Oblivion, and the other one is Quantum Victoria. Okay. So Dawn of Oblivion, you have to imagine it as some sort of R-Type in the gameplay feeling. It's a space shooter, and the fiction is similar to anime like Knights of Sidonia. So you are on a huge ship in space with a huge population inside of it. And what you're doing is trying to survive, develop technology strong enough to defeat the Cancer Beast. And the Cancer Beasts are creatures or life forms in general that spread around the universe, transforming everything in a horrible monster made of tentacles and cancer cells. So you develop the technology while you travel, adventure after adventure, and at the end you need to have weapons strong enough to defeat the Cancer Core. The Cancer Core is the planet where everything started, and that planet is planet Earth. So you are going back to planet Earth while you traveled very distantly in the universe to save from the Cancer Beast. It's very interesting. This game is very interesting because the mechanical character is the spaceship. I mean, the thing that has special techniques, etc., is the spaceship. The pilot is the role-playing game character expansion, where you have your abilities, etc. And then, like in all R-Type games, you can have a pod, which is a little model that flies around your ship and makes other kind of special moves.
Nice.
And then, yeah, that has a feeling. We tried to recreate the exact feeling of R-Type game with that when you're fighting, of course. Then Quantum Victoria is a spin-off from Augusta Universalis. So it has a very simplified system compared to Augusta Universalis. You have Praetorians, which are superhumans with an hyper armor that gets out of their body. So it's not like they wear it. They have it inside like Iron Man and on the latest movies, you know. It's all nanomachines, and it comes out, covers their body, and transforms them in superhumans with Technologica. The Technologica is the hyper armor. In this game, you travel the different dimensional planes, planets, and universes, because they were experimenting a new way of travel. Something went wrong when they experimented this kind of portals, and they were trapped in a sort of continuous jump from one world to another. What they have to do is each time they warp in another universe, they have to fix a situation. They have to solve something to be able to jump again, because they have to charge their logos. The logos is a sort of representation of everything that is good. Ancient Romans accepted any kind of religion, of any kind of population they integrated inside of the empire. No. So logos is the general word to describe all that is good. You can call it God, you can call it rightness. It doesn't matter how you call it, but when you jump in another universe, you have to make things right. That's the point. The moment you understand what had to be changed, you warp and jump in another dimension. With what they hope is that one day they will come back to Rome. They will come back to their universe. And this game was inspired by, in the gameplay, I mean, was inspired by games like Turricane. Turricane, I hope.
I don't. Sorry.
It's one. No, come on! It's one of my favorite platforms of all times. It's very similar to Metroid.
It doesn't ring a bell. Sorry.
Fantastic. I'll send you a link.
All
I'll
right.
send you a link about it later, but I'm sure that many people who will see this interview will know about that. Well, in any case, it's something that it's a game where you fight and make a lot of choices on what kind of transformations to apply, how to transform your Lorica, your armor, using everything you have in the environment that you can use to expand it, because they have experimental armors that can evolve using what they have around. So it's a survival game, and a game about solving problems, situations. It's not only fighting, but there's a lot of role play involved. These
Right.
are the basic the main 4 games.
Kind of like a fighting game version of the old Quantum Leap TVs.
Oh yes, you got it. That's one of the main sources of inspiration. I didn't mention it because it's a pretty old it's a pretty old TV series, so I didn't know if it would ring a bell.
I think I caught a couple
Yeah,
episodes as a kid. Yeah.
yeah, it's an action version of Quantum Leap. You just don't jump in time, but you jump in different dimensions. So inside of the game, there is, for example, planet generator. You roll the dice several times, and you have a source of inspiration for the new planet you are jumping in, and the situation you'll be facing. So you never know what happens, and you never get stuck having to create something yourself. You just use the source inspiration and decide how to adapt your adventure to what comes out.
Cool. Yeah, that's a lot of really cool and varied stuff. I think there's a lot for people in this. Yeah.
Yeah. Every game is very deep and interesting. Different people develop them. Like this Quantum Victoria is developed by Marzio Morganti, which is the author, of course, of Augusto Universalis. Retromaniacs is developed by the Retromaniacs, of course, with my help. Dawn of Oblivion is my creation, and there is Mecha Romancer, which is a creation of me and Alessandro Costella, which is the other author of Dragon Fighters. It's important to know that Alessandro Costella was a fan of the original Musha Shugyo. He wasn't a developer of the original Musha Shugyo, but he's a professional game designer, and he fell in love with Musha Shugyo and decided to help developing the second version.
That's super cool. It's always nice to find nice collaboration projects like that.
Yeah, it always happens when you create something that people start loving.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up while you're here?
Well, I don't know. An important thing is that since we realized that maybe we had a weird approach to rewards in this Kickstarter compared to the others, because of the situation with the lockdown and the coronavirus. In Italy we are locked down in a total way. So tomorrow we'll start working again. We start going to work again, etc. But this is only phase 2 of the situation. So it's not like everything will be solved. A lot of people have to stay at home and play alone or with their friends from a webcam, etc. So we thought that it was time to try a formula where you bought digital games, and if you wanted, you could, in a second time, spend the money to buy the physical copies. Especially in Italy, this was not the case. It was not something that people could afford to enjoy. It was not the right choice, probably, because people still want the physical copy of their games. So what we did yesterday was we rearranged the Kickstarter rewards. Now you get physical copies with the higher tiers of the rewards, and there is a super digital pack which is called Digital Warrior, which has everything inside at an affordable price. So we divided the two ideas, and now it's much more similar to a more common Kickstarter. So what I wanted to tell you is try and have a look at it, download the quick start, even if the quick start is focused only on basic gameplay, because we couldn't write the entire system on it, of course, and see if you want to join us on this Kickstarter and help us make it a reality. That's all.
All right. And yeah, the Digital Warrior is about €45 or about 70 Canadian, so that makes it 60 US, something like that. Yeah, currency conversion is hard. But yeah, this looks super cool, and thanks for coming on.
I think that Kickstarter makes an automatic conversion when you pay or not. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I
about it.
believe it does. Yeah, it shows me the Canadian, but not American. I'm doing that in my head.
I see.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. This has been wonderful. Your taste in anime is really good.
Thanks to you, really. Thanks to you for giving me the opportunity to have this interview. It doesn't happen very often to have an English interview for me.
Well, if you do another project, feel free to hit me up. I'm always looking for more people. So, but yeah,
Absolutely. I'll add you to my contact list. Also, let's exchange email addresses, etc.
for sure.
Sorry for my English, of course. I hope
Oh, it's
you can
perfectly
understand what I'm saying.
it's perfectly fine, man. Don't worry.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, and I think that's it. So thank you for watching, everybody. Check out Musha Shugyo, Dragonfire's Advanced Musha Shugyo, rather, on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Subscribe to my Patreon if you want. You can do that. Um, and yeah, have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone, or good day if you are in Italy. Bye bye.
See ya.